It's been a little while since I've made a video, and it is because we are now sitting in my new bedroom because we have moved and we are currently in the process of moving. And if anyone's moved before, you know that it can be quite the ordeal and take everything out of you. As you can tell in the thumbnail, today we're going to be talking about science that we use in our homeschool, things that we have used, things that I will continue to rotate and use, and why we use these science curriculums. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. Okay, so for us, biblically based science is probably the most important thing. We are a Christian family, a Christian homeschool family, and so we choose to pick science that does not only teach the theories of what secular scientists say, but also separates what actually they can prove from the scientific data versus what is theory. And I want my kids to be able to critically think about this. I also want them to examine everything against a biblical worldview. And because this is our conviction, we choose a couple of different sciences. So within our homeschool, we are doing probably I want to say at least two science curriculums at once. Now, that might seem very overwhelming and daunting, but the science curriculum chosen, sorry, that fire alarm really needs a battery. If you hear it in the background, I apologize. So, both science curriculums that we choose are pretty short lessons. So, it's not like we're super overwhelmed by the science that we're studying. So, the first thing that we are using right now is Answers in Genesis Technology. We are almost to the end of this. We will move on to Answers in Genesis Weather. It's the next section of the book, and I'll actually pop up the pictures of them in here. Now, if anyone is wondering and wants to get these curriculums, I'm not 100% sure that this particular curriculum is still available. However, I do know that Answers in Genesis had sold these or has redone this curriculum with master books. I have had an opportunity to look at the very similar curriculum from master books because a friend has her child doing it, and it is very, very similar. But they do have more worksheets than the Answers in Genesis curriculum that I have, and that is perfectly fine. We love this. It is maybe 15-minute lessons. Sometimes you have a science experiment associated with it, but not always. They give optional ones, and their worksheets are pretty fun. And they also have a unit test at the end. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So that is the curriculum that we currently use for our main science. We also use Living Healthy. Now, I know a lot of people would say, okay, well, that's a health curriculum. For me, this book really checks two boxes. So even though it is technically a health curriculum, it does talk a little bit about food. It does talk a little bit about nutrition, and it also talks a little bit about anatomy. And so it's kind of checking a wide spectrum of health topics / science topics. So this is also a master books book, and I actually really particularly love this. I actually really love this curriculum. It is very open and go. It's very user friendly. The lessons are maybe 10 to 15 minutes long, but they really pack a punch in learning about your body, learning about your anatomy, how the cells, how you work, the macronutrients, the micronutrients that you need within your food, and even just how your muscles work and function. It's really interesting. It's definitely more health science, but I would still consider this a science. Something that we've done in the past is I've got it readily on hand, is paleontology. So we did not do the worksheets, but we did read through quite a bit. We read through a couple of these books at night with my kids. Another thing that we have done is master book zoology, which my kids loved. We also added YouTube videos and stuff of those animals and things like that, and that has always been a big hit for my family. One of my children elects to do some of the worksheets in one of these books on the side, so he is also getting in another science as well. You might ask why we do so many sciences. Is in my family, we have 4 kids of 4 different ages, and they are ranging from middle school all the way to pre-K. So it's kind of a huge gap of kids, and the ability to do so many different sciences makes me feel like we are kind of getting all the gaps filled. We might even throw in elementary anatomy later on, which we've already worked through Answers in Genesis anatomy. And while we are doing the weather book from Answers in Genesis, we might throw in other master books mini series. Well, this is not necessarily a science book, but it does touch on a lot of scientific ideas. It's called One Blood for Kids. And during this, it does talk about like alleles and genetics, which most people wouldn't think that this would show up, but it's almost like a mini lesson into genetics. So when it starts talking about like the male alleles and the mother's alleles, and how the genes organize and how the DNA organizes, it's all very science-based. And a lot of Answers in Genesis books are very scientific based. So we'll throw in these kinds of books throughout the year to give my kids a refresher course and base their ideas in certain subjects based on science and based on biblical principles. We will also probably throw in a few mini series from the library. We like to definitely add and make sure that there's a mixture always going on in my homeschool. It just makes it easier for me. Again, when you have a wide variety of different ages, it is always, always, always nice to add in multiple sciences. And for us, biblical accurate sciences are the most important. I was actually just watching a Mike Winger video about talking about the lies that a lot of people who are atheists believe and the circular reasoning that they believe. And that's why I think it's so absolutely cool that Answers in Genesis has come out with books and mini series and everything else and have partnered with Master Books to give us curriculum that directly goes against those lies that are a lot of times fed to us as science. And science is one of those places that I feel like has gotten the most attacks on faith. I feel like the scientific community attacks faith-based communities more in the public spheres of like colleges or high schools or even middle schoolers. It's very cool to be able to throw in these mini lessons from master books or these books that we can learn from and add those in to our regular science. Basically what we use for science. Thank you for bearing with me. I have some sleeping children and a sleeping dog right beside me. And Lord willing, I will get back to my normal posting schedule. If there's something that you would need to see or a question that you'd want to ask, please feel free to ask. And if you also use a really awesome science curriculum that you feel has benefited your family, also drop that below. When I was looking for homeschool curriculum, being able to look through what other people said about the material was super helpful for me. So, well, thank you, mamas. God bless, and have a great day.